Hello everybody, hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and this is lesson, sorry about the lag, this is lesson number 22. Are we already on 22? That's cool. So this is lesson number 22 in our dive into the wonderful world of musical theory, and today we're going to be talking about rests. Yes, after many lessons of talking about how to clap out notes, we're going to learn the exact opposite. So far we've talked about sounds. I mean, that's really obvious, this is music, right? But more specifically, we've talked about how to write down sounds. And the way we write down sounds is through notes. The note type tells us how long to play that sound, and the position the note has on a staff tells us which pitch that note is, which pitch to play that sound. So the sound is the duration for which the sound is to be played is denoted by the note type, and the pitch at which the sound is supposed to be played is denoted by its position. Denoted. I keep on saying denoted. Is denoted by its position on the staff. Great. But in music, what's sometimes more entertaining than sounds is silence. I'm being all profound here, but yes. What if I want there to be silence in the middle of some music, right? And what if I don't want anything to be played, right? And this is a fairly common ask, especially when you're writing orchestral scores. You don't want all the instruments to be playing all the time, or even in just a tune. Sometimes you want there to be a break, or sometimes you want to start after a short break, or who knows what you want to do. But point is, it's very useful in music to have a way to denote silence, right? To have a way to denote no sound or stop playing or whatever, right? And those are called rests. Those symbols we use to denote silence, just as we use notes to as symbols to donate. To I keep on saying donate, man. What's wrong with me? As we use notes to denote sounds, as symbols to denote sounds, we use rests to denote silence. So rests are symbols used to denote specifically how long a silence is supposed to be held. Right? And just like they're extremely similar to notes in the sense that they come in many different types, and their values are analogous to a lot of the note values which you have. So I've got this right here because I didn't want to make you go through my terrible drawing, because as you can see some of these have some weird symbols, so I thought I'd actually get you what it actually looks like right here for your reference. So the first rest which exists is a whole rest. So I have to draw a staff for this. 4, 5, right? This whole rest, as you can see, you go to the fourth line and it's a small rectangle which you draw beneath the fourth line, something like this. So it doesn't touch the bottom, it doesn't connect the fourth line to the middle line, but it's somewhere in the middle, nearly half the distance between them, and it is hanging off, it's pointing down, so it's like this. And this is the fourth line on the staff. It's quite visible there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is called the whole rest. And just like notes, rests don't have a certain amount of seconds or a certain amount of counts or beats. No, rests have values, and a whole rest has, as you might expect, a value of 1, which is the same as a whole note. So it has the same value as the whole note. So if a whole note is meant to be played for some amount of time, a whole rest is supposed to be not played, or like it is supposed to be silence for that amount of time, right? So that's how it works. And usually, for example, in a 4/4 time signature, this would be 4 counts worth of silence. In a 4/4 time signature, or any number 4 time signature, it would be 4 counts. But in other time signature, perhaps not. But the point is, its value, its rest value is 1, and it's meant to be played just as long, or meant to be held. The silence is meant to be held just as long as a whole note. Then, as you might imagine, we go down. We have the half rest. You have to excuse my handwriting there. which is quite similar to the whole rest with one key significant difference. And once again, I'll be directing you up here because, as you can see, my shaft drawing is not amazing. The half rest is significantly similar to the whole rest. It's a rectangle you draw on the staff, except two major differences. Number one, we draw the half rest on the middle line. So instead of the whole rest is drawn on the fourth line, where the half rest is drawn on the middle line, and it's pointing up. So like this, something like this, right? And it's filled in, because it is a filled in, how that means saying. And once again, it does not touch the top or anything. It's basically half the distance, and it juts up like this, a short rectangle, and it's on the middle line. So draw that here for your reference. And its node value, sorry, I shouldn't say node value, its rest value is half, analogous to a half node. The rest value is half. Then we look at the quarter rest. This one's got quite a funny symbol, so I won't draw the staff this time because it's not strictly necessary. It looks something like this. This is how they teach you in, like, theory textbooks to draw it when you're handwriting music, right? Because you're not gonna draw that. If you can, then you're an amazing artist. Pat on the back to you. But for us regular people, you draw it like this. Draw a straight line down, one girdle, another girdle, which is slightly bigger. It kind of looks like a tree, like this, but with thing jutting out that way. I mean, you can make your own interpretation of what it is, but that's the ideal look for it. That's what it's supposed to look like, just to give you some reference. And its rest value per se is 1/4, analogous to that of a quarter. And our next rest is a eighth rest, and I'm pretty sure you get the pattern here. This one's also relatively simple. When you the quarter rest, I forgot to mention, you start on the top line and you end somewhere around the second to last line, somewhere around here, right? I mean, it's quickly visible. The eighth rest you draw between the second line and the fourth line, like this, and it looks something like this. The eighth rest you can draw quite effectively, something like that, right? Once again, bad drawings, but then handwritten music is quite. There are rules for handwritten music. There's rules for computerized music. So yeah, the eighth rest looks something like this. It has the value analogous to that of an eighth note, and its value is 1/8. The value of the rest value, I should say, of an eighth rest is 1/8, as you might expect, right? And there's actually one more, the 16th rest, which is not mentioned up there, but we learned the 16th note, so you might as well know the 16th rest. And it is similar to the 8th rest, but instead of having one, it has sort of two sticking out, jutting out. So instead of being like this, you draw it and you have one thing sticking out in dot, you have slightly longer line, 1 and 2. Well, I don't draw it that well, so I'd probably put a picture somewhere in an article. And it's similar to like how a 8th note has one flag and a 16th note has two flags. Similar thing, this has one line and dot, and this has two lines and dots. Of course my handwriting is terrible, but yeah, something like that. That's what this looks like. It says a value of 1/16, as you might imagine, and is analogous to 16th note. So yeah, that's essentially what it means. So perhaps I show you what it means to perhaps have a rest. So if I have, because these are rhythmic in nature, they have no pitch, you don't really, they're silent, literally they represent silent, so you don't need to write it on a staff. So I'll just write it loosely. Let's say I have a quarter note and two quarter rests and another quarter note. That's a bar and 4/4, because once again, this bears mentioning, these rests are supposed to fill in spaces for where notes are supposed to be. So you write them in between notes, before notes, after notes, etc, etc. And these rests are supposed to fill in spaces for where notes are supposed to be. And the total rest and note value operates similarly under the time signature. So the value of the rest and the notes in a bar notes and rest together must be the same as 4 quarter notes if you're dealing with 4/4, 2 quarter notes if you're dealing with 2/4, 3 quarter notes if you're dealing with 3/4, 2 half notes if you're dealing with 2/2, whatever time signature we're talking about here, right? But the total rest and note value together is what it's talking about, right? So rest are there to fill in spaces for quarter notes, no, for notes in general, right? So if I want silence to be played for this many counts, it's like that. So in a 4/4 time signature, right, I would not play for whatever counts these represent. So let me write it up top here. It's quite simple. This first quarter note, because we're talking about 4/4, is worth 1 count. It'll be played for 1 count. The silence of this rest will be held, I should say, for one more count. The silence of this rest will be held for another count, and this note will be played for one count. So it's play, don't play, don't play, play, essentially, right? And I mean, I could use half rest here, but I prefer using quarter rests. It's analogous, it's the same thing. Both work. You'll find both, but you usually actually use quarter rests. I've seen in music from experience, 2 quarter rests. And yeah, the reason for me doing this was to demonstrate what it means. So each of these rests is worth 1 count, right? So when I'm counting this out, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, right? So that 2 and 3 are silent. I don't play anything at all, right? Similarly in 4/4, a complete bar of silence, okay, you know what, I'll draw the stuff for, you know. A complete bar of silence is denoted by a whole rest, right? So if I'm writing 4/4, 1 2 3 4, that's what this means. It's full bar silence. You actually rarely see a half rest. I don't see all that many half rests. People just usually write 2 quarter rests together, but theoretically speaking, 4/4 you could have a half note, and I'll just write it like this, a half rest. So keep in mind this is the middle line of stuff. You could have this, right? And yeah, and that would mean you play 2 counts here and you don't play for 2 counts. You just don't. So again, these rests denote silence, and that's really all that there is to it. One thing I will draw before I leave, right before I leave you, this is relatively simple stuff. I'm sure you can picture the way these operate. If you want, I'll actually, before I get to the final thing, I'll perhaps show some 8th rests in action. How about this? So an 8th note and an 8th rest, and an 8th note and an 8th rest, and a quarter note and a quarter note. This does indeed, remember, you're supposed to add the rest values to your total value as well, right? Because you are keeping that time, you're just not playing it, right? You are using that time. So if you add the rest value, this is a 4/4 bar, because 1 quarter note, 2 quarter note, these together make 1 quarter note, these two together make 1 quarter note, 4. So it's correct. Now as for how I play this, I encourage you to pause the video and try it out yourself. Remember, this is half a count worth of rest, and in 4/4, and when I'm counting it, I'll count it in terms of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and because you know there is notes, and I assume you paused the video and tried it already, so I'll be doing it now. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, sorry, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, sorry, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, so that's not 2 apparently. We try it again. Like, let me show it again, because this may just sound like quarter note which is the rest there, but nonetheless let me show. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, so the difference here is I am sustaining that 8 note only for that 1, and there's a silence on the end. Let me actually draw it here. There's silence on the end. I'm sustaining that 8th note only for the 2. There's a silence on the end, and then 3 and 4 and the quarter notes fully take it up. As this is where 8th notes would come in, 8th rests, I mean. And then you have I won't show 16th rests, but they work in much the same way. I'm sure you can imagine. And one thing I do want to sort of show before I end this lesson is the rest pyramid per se. The rest pyramid. So I talked about the note pyramid, right? I've shown the note pyramid on multiple occasions. I'll show the rest pyramid this time as well. It's the same, it's relatively the same thing, just with rests this time, because they operate in the same way, as I said. For example, there are 2 quarter rests and a half rest, and there's 2 half rests. Terrible, but like, you get the point, right? in one whole rest, right? So they work the same way as notes. And I said they're I named the analogous notes. So if you have to draw a full rest pyramid, you have at the top the whole rest. Let's fill this in nice and proper. Then that splits into two half rests. Which look like this, and then that itself then splits into two quarter rests, which later split into two eighth rests, all of them do. I'm sure you can just Google images and you get a much better picture than what I'm drawing for you here. And then those in turn split into two 16th rests. All around. I'll just draw them slightly more quickly so they look worse and worse progressively. So, point being, as I said, the reason why this is useful, why we draw this out, is that it very easily helps you to link the values of the rests. So you can easily see that, for example, two half rests make one whole rest, or four quarter rests make one whole rest, right? It's all very clearly apparent just because of this whole splitting mechanism. That's the one. Writing the 16th rest is takes some time, but anyway, I'm in the end now. So yeah, I do actually. If you're if you think you looking at the rest pyramid properly would help you, just Google image the rest period from like maybe music theory along with the title, and you should get something like this. And it'll be much clearer, and you'll have the actual symbols with you, so it'll be much better for you, right? And you can see everything, so it'll be better, as I said. Anyways, yeah. So this is the rest pyramid. As you can see, it's just easy to see that there are four 16th rests in one quarter rest, so there are four eighth rests and one half rest. So that's why we draw the pyramid. It's just easier. It's a visual way of representing how the note values work, how the rest values work in this case. Anyways, relatively short lesson today. That's all I really wanted to cover. Rest important. As I said, you need to be able to write silence in music. And with that being said, that's all I really wanted to cover today. Hope you found this lesson enjoyable. Hope you took something valuable away from it. Hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you next time. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next class.